Right now, in this exact second, your brain is doing something no scientist has ever fully explained. It is turning electricity into the taste of coffee, into the ache of missing someone, into the specific shade of orange behind your eyelids when you face the sun with your eyes closed. Nobody knows why. We have mapped the human genome. We have photographed a black hole 4 billion light years away. We have built machines that write, paint, and argue with us. And yet the most basic fact of your own existence, that there is a you in here experiencing any of this at all, remains a total mystery. Here's the part almost nobody talks about. You don't just have one type of consciousness. You move through several completely different versions of it every single day without noticing. And they are not just awake and asleep. There is a hidden ladder, and most people spend their entire lives standing on the bottom 3 rungs, assuming that's the whole staircase. Every night, something happens to you that is stranger than any horror movie, and you sleep right through it. You close your eyes, and within the hour, a version of you disappears completely. Not metaphorically, completely. There is no dream, no darkness you're aware of, no sense of time passing. There isn't even a you there to notice that nothing is happening. Scientists call this stage of sleep the N3 stage, or slow wave sleep, and it's marked by the slowest brainwaves the human body produces, delta waves, oscillating at less than 4 cycles per second, compared to the fast, chattering waves of your normal waking mind. During this stage, your hippocampus, the part of your brain that holds your short-term memories, starts quietly shipping the important ones off to long-term storage in your cortex, like a night shift worker filing paperwork while the office is empty. Your body repairs muscle tissue. Your immune system restocks. But none of that is what makes this stage strange. What makes it strange is that the part of you that experiences things simply isn't there for it. Think about the last time you woke up from a truly deep, dreamless sleep. You didn't experience nothing the way you experience boredom or darkness. You experienced an absence of experience itself, and yet, somehow, you knew time had passed. You weren't confused about who you were. You didn't wake up thinking you'd died and been reborn as someone else. Some deeper layer of you kept the lights on just enough to know that the lights had been off. Across cultures, thinkers have circled this same paradox for centuries. In the old Sanskrit texts, this state is called sushupti, deep sleep, and it's described not as blankness, but as the self resting in an unmanifest form, still present, just folded away. It is the one part of your daily life where you get a genuine preview of what it might feel like for the self to switch off completely, without any of the fear that usually comes attached to that idea. That alone should make you pause. You already know what it's like to not exist. You do it every single night, and you're always fine afterward. Then, without any warning, the lights flicker back on. Except now, you're not awake. You're dreaming. Your body is still paralyzed. Your eyes are moving rapidly behind closed lids, and your brain has just switched into one of the most electrically active states it will experience all day, almost indistinguishable on a scan from being wide awake. Except there's no outside world feeding it information anymore. Every sight, sound, and physical sensation you experience in a dream is generated entirely from the inside. You are, at the exact same time, the writer, the director, every actor, and the only audience member. A stranger's face in your dream might be stitched together from someone you passed on the street last week, and a character from a show you watched years ago, and your brain won't flag any of it as fake. This is where things get genuinely useful to understand, because dreaming isn't your brain glitching, it's your brain doing emotional homework. During REM sleep, the amygdala, the brain's threat and emotion center, becomes highly active, while the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for logic and impulse control, goes quiet. That's the actual mechanism behind why dreams feel so emotionally intense, but so logically ridiculous. You're getting the full emotional volume with the reasoning turned almost all the way down. Researchers who study this describe REM, sleep, as a kind of overnight therapy session, where the brain replays emotionally charged memories, but strips out some of the physiological stress response attached to them, so that by morning, the memory is still there, just less sharp, less raw. That's a real measurable process, not folklore. It's one reason people often say time heals painful memories. Some of that healing is quite literally happening while you dream. Think about the last nightmare that shook you awake with your heart pounding. Nothing in that dream was physically real, and yet your nervous system reacted as if it were. That's the proof, every single night, that your brain doesn't need real input to produce a completely real experience, which raises an uncomfortable question worth sitting with for a second. If a fake world can feel this convincing while you're asleep, how confident are you that your waking world is any different? Which brings you to right now, the state you're in as you listen to this. You'd assume waking consciousness is the real one, the baseline, the version of reality everyone agrees on. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your waking experience is also being built, moment by moment, by a brain that never has direct access to the outside world. Your eyes don't send pictures to your brain. They send patterns of electrical noise, and your brain guesses what's out there based on that noise and its past experience, then presents that guess to you as seeing. Neuroscientist Anil Seth has described this as a controlled hallucination, not because your senses are lying to you maliciously, but because perception has always worked by prediction, not by direct recording. Your brain isn't a camera, it's a report writer, constantly filling in blanks using its best guess. This isn't just a philosophical idea, it's measurable. Visual illusions exist precisely because your brain applies rules and shortcuts to raw sensory data. And every so often, those rules produce a picture that doesn't match reality. And it's not just illusions. It's your entire sensory range. You experience a tiny slice of the electromagnetic spectrum as color. Bats build a picture of the world from sound, bouncing off objects. Some birds can sense the Earth's magnetic field well enough to navigate across continents with it. None of these species is experiencing more or less truth than you. They're all experiencing a version filtered for survival, not for accuracy. There's also a specific network in your brain, called the default mode network, that activates whenever you're not focused on a task, when you're daydreaming, replaying a conversation, or worrying about tomorrow. This network is largely responsible for constructing your sense of being a continuous me, moving through time, stitching together memory, self-image, and anticipation into one ongoing story. It is, in a very real sense, the machinery behind your personal narrator. So here's the layer most people never stop to notice. What you call reality is a story your brain is telling you in real time, built from partial data and a lot of educated guessing that just happens to be stable and consistent enough for you to function, cooperate with other people, and build a life. That's not a flaw. It's remarkably efficient design. But it does mean the line between awake and dreaming is a lot blurrier than it feels. For most people, that's the entire map. Awake, dreaming, deep sleep. 3 stops. On repeat for an entire lifetime. But there's a 4th state that doesn't show up on a normal day. One that has to be deliberately trained into existence. And once you understand the mechanism behind it, it stops sounding mystical and starts sounding like a specific, learnable skill. This is the state experienced in deep, sustained meditation. Not the relaxed, mind-wandering kind, but the kind practiced for thousands of hours by dedicated meditators. In a landmark study out of the University of Wisconsin, researchers led by Richard Davidson and Antoine Lutz placed EEG sensors on long-term Buddhist meditators, some with tens of thousands of hours of practice, and compared their brain activity to a group of complete beginners. What they found was startling. During meditation, the experienced practitioners produced extremely high amplitude gamma wave activity, the fastest brainwave frequency, usually associated with intense focus and moments of insight. And crucially, this activity was highly synchronized across widely separated regions of the brain, far beyond anything seen in the untrained group. Normally, different regions of your brain fire somewhat independently, each handling its own job. In these meditators, large areas of the brain were firing in coordinated rhythm, almost like separate instruments suddenly falling into the same tempo. Subjectively, people in this state describe something very specific. Thought doesn't disappear violently. It simply slows, spaces out, and eventually the gaps between thoughts become more noticeable than the thoughts themselves. There's still a you there, but it's no longer identified with the stream of thinking. It's aware of the thinking happening, the way you might watch clouds pass without believing you were the clouds. The old Upanishadic texts had a name for this exact state long before EEG machines existed. Turiya, the fourth state, distinct from waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, described as a silent witnessing awareness underneath all three. What's remarkable is that a tradition built entirely on subjective reports over 2,000 years ago described the structure, a distinct fourth layer of awareness beneath ordinary experience that modern neuroscience is now independently measuring with electrodes. Some long-term meditators describe something further. The stillness they find in deep practice stops being something they have to enter and starts staying present even after their eyes open, while they're back in ordinary life, talking, working, moving through their day. This is sometimes described as a form of persistent meta-awareness, where a person can be fully engaged in a task or conversation while simultaneously aware of the awareness itself running underneath it, almost like being able to watch yourself drive without it interfering with the driving. Researchers studying attention and mindfulness have documented this capacity for decentering, the ability to observe one's own thoughts and emotions as passing mental events rather than as absolute facts about reality. This is not a fringe idea in psychology. Decentering is a core, measurable mechanism behind why certain forms of meditation-based therapy reduce rumination and emotional reactivity. What it produces at a lived level is strange but specific. Emotions still happen. Grief still hurts. Joy still lifts. But there's a background stability that doesn't get knocked over by either one. People in this state often describe feeling less like they're their thoughts, and more like they are the space those thoughts occur in. It's the difference between being caught inside a wave and realizing you were the ocean the entire time, watching waves rise and fall on your own surface. And then there's a final layer that shows up in the reports of contemplatives across nearly every tradition on Earth, one that neuroscience can only partially describe, because at this point, the experience stops being just cognitive and becomes deeply relational. Neurologist Andrew Newberg ran brain imaging studies on Franciscan nuns in deep prayer and Tibetan Buddhist monks in advanced meditation, and found something consistent across both groups. A marked decrease in activity in the posterior parietal lobe, a brain region responsible for constructing your sense of physical boundary, where you end and the rest of the world begins. When that region quiets down, people consistently report the same subjective experience. The felt sense of separation between self and surroundings starts to dissolve. Not in a confused, disoriented way, but in a way many describe as the most natural thing they've ever felt, like remembering something they'd forgotten rather than discovering something new. Across traditions, this state gets described with different vocabulary, but strikingly similar content. The Vedic texts call it Sat Chit Ananda, being, consciousness, and bliss experienced as a single unified state. Christian mystics called it union with the divine. Sufi poets described it as a fire that burns away the illusion of separateness. What's notable is that this isn't just a poetic overlap. The specific, measurable brain changes correlate directly with the subjective reports, across people from entirely unrelated cultures and belief systems who never spoke to each other, separated by centuries and oceans, independently describing the same underlying shift. Here's what ties all 6 of these states together, and it's worth sitting with rather than rushing past. Every single one of them is still, in some sense, you. The version of you in dreamless sleep, gone entirely from experience. The version generating an entire universe from memory fragments while your body lies motionless. The version confidently walking through a controlled hallucination it insists on calling objective reality. The version whose separate regions of brain activity fall into synchronized rhythm during silence. The version who can watch its own thoughts pass like weather. And the version whose sense of boundary softens enough to feel connected to something larger than itself. None of these are illusions layered on top of a real you underneath. They may simply be different resolutions of the same underlying awareness, the way the same river looks completely different as a trickle, a flood, and a still lake, while still being made of the same water the entire time. Most people live their whole lives assuming that Tuesday afternoon, half distracted, phone-scrolling consciousness is the ceiling of what's available to a human mind. It isn't. It's the floor. The layers above it aren't reserved for monks on a mountain somewhere. They show up, in fragments, in the quiet second, right before you fall asleep, in the stillness after a long walk, in the moment grief goes silent, and you just watch it move through you instead of fighting it. You've already visited every layer on this list. You just weren't told to pay attention while you were there. If any part of this made you look at your own mind a little differently, that's the whole point of this channel. Understanding yourself is the most useful thing you'll ever study. Subscribe if you want more of this, and tell me in the comments which one of these 6 states you think you've actually experienced without realizing it.